What's up guys, Ember here, back with a new video. In today's one I'm going to be taking a look at some Lugia decks for post-rotation. So Lugia does actually gain a couple of new cards from Scarlet and Violet. One of the biggest interesting notes about Lugia is kind of like, how will it adapt to rotation, because obviously it loses Aurora energy in several of its best amazing rare Pokemon. So how will Lugia Vstar adapt to post-rotation? So some new translations just quickly to go over is Mousehold and Penny. Mousehold, 70 HP, stage 1, single prize Pokemon. Doesn't seem that great, but it does have the attack Family Attack, which for 2 colors does 70 damage for each of your Mousehold in play. So if you're able to get 4 of these guys in play, you can actually do 280 damage, which is pretty impressive. And of course, this is made easier by the fact that Lugia V-Star can bring back single prize colors Pokemon from the discard pile with its V-Star power. So assuming you don't get 2 archeops, you can use the V-Star power to get back some Mousehold as well. We also see Penny on the right here that says return one of your basic Pokemon in play and all cards attached to it to your hand. So there is going to be some Lugia builds now with single strike Tyranitar V, which is a very strong attacker and just allows you to swing into Gardevoir for weakness. But there is going to be games where maybe Tyranitar tanks a hit and you just have Penny in hand, so you can essentially use Penny to recycle a Tyranitar. So that's kind of like why they're here. So just looking at this first list here, it's based on the single strike decks. We see 2 copies of Tyranitar V. We'll see 2 Stonejourner, which is the single prize, single strike Stonejourner that we don't usually see in single prize decks, or just in single strike decks, I should say, in general. But it does do 120 damage for 3 energy. And why that's in here is just to take care of all the lightning decks we'll probably be seeing post rotation. So stuff like Miraidon, you'll be able to one hit kill with this. Also with single strike energy, we can theoretically get all the way up to 300s. So we can use that to, knock out stuff like a Ampharos EX in one hit, or something like a Magenzone EX in one hit. So that's why Stonejourner is there. We're also seeing a Veltol just to take care of other Lugia decks and just anything with special energy, so i.e. Mew. Also 2 Luminion V, which I wouldn't be really expecting in a Lugia V-Star deck. I know some lists in the current standard format are playing 1 or 2 Luminion, but I'm personally not such a big fan of Luminion. But maybe it's better post-rotation. We'll also see a Radiant Tracina, funnily enough, to be able to heal 20 damage, because if you're using Archeops, then, well, I was going to say if you're using Archeops, then Single Strike Energy would place the 2 damage counters, but that's only for Houndoom, so I guess Radiant Tracina is just healing 20 damage anyway for doing different things, so I guess a little bit of healing is okay. Probably the most interesting aspect about this list probably comes in the form of the trainers, though. 2 Nest Ball is interesting when compared to the fact the deck also plays 4 Aromatic Incense. It is like, I guess, a more efficient way of finding evolution Pokemon as long as you're flipping tails, I believe. So, I guess finding evolution Pokemon is just as important as finding basics in this deck, and that's why they went for 4 Ultra Ball, 2 Nest Ball, 4 Aromatic Incense. But it's still interesting to see. Also see 3 Single Strike Jar, because that's going to allow you to, Single Strike Urn, I should say, which is going to allow you to recycle single strike energies, and that's basically the only way you can recover special energy in standard, so it's definitely one of the best ways of doing it. We'll see 2 Research, and then 2 Zinnia's Resolve, which we definitely don't see in many deck lists. I'm surprised this deck is playing 2 Zinnia over any more Serena, because I would have thought Serena would have just more uses and applications throughout the game, but apparently not. Also see 1 Judge, which is good because we don't have Barney post rotation. 2 Brunette to allow you to search your deck for any 2 cards and discard them, so definitely got good synergy there with Archeops. 1 Penny, as we mentioned before, to try and recover a Tyranitar maybe. We'll see 1 Serena, 2 Boss, because we do need that split now that we have EX going to be running around in the format. See 2 Single Strike Stadium, 1 Collapse Stadium, 3 Double Turbo, 4 Gift Energy, I believe, and then 2 V-God Energy, and 4 Single Strike Energy. So this next deck, bearing what we've just said in mind, is going to be very, very similar. However, it is leaning into Deoxys more. So you've got Deoxys as this alternate attacker. Does 80 damage and then 160 if you have any Fusion Strike energy attached to Deoxys. So you basically want to be using Archeops to accelerate a Fusion Strike energy and, maybe a Single Strike energy as well to Deoxys, because it can use that as well. And then we can just attach something like a V-Guard energy or a Gift energy to Deoxys. So pretty nifty attacker. I think there is another list we'll take a look at later on that plays a heavier count. This is going to be like more of a Deoxys tech card in here, as well as, stuff like Tyranitar and Stonejourner that we'll see in other decks. The list also plays a single strike Scroll of the Dragon, I believe it's called, which does like a whopping 300 damage for like 2 metal, 1 fighting, 2 colors. It's an insanely expensive tool card. But I think one of the cool things about this list is that you can actually use the scroll in combination with Fusion Strike Energy on Deoxys, I believe, and that's why it's in here, which is pretty cool if so, because it would allow you to take like a 1-hit KO on something like I don't know, like a Vstar or a Vmax. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see at least. Also, some interesting notes is that this deck's also not playing Penny, it's playing Charon Scare instead in order to loop a Lugia rather. Also playing 2 Judge and still playing Brunette, and also 4 Research, so certainly heavier in that terms. Also see a Stadium, I think that's the Mesagoza one that says, allows you to like search your deck for a Pokemon that doesn't have a Roblox and put them onto the bench, along with its basic, so you can just use that to find a Deoxys or a Stonejourner, which is pretty cool. So, pretty cool list overall. This next one is going to be a Rapid Strike list, and so we're playing the 2-2 line of Urshifu VMAX. I know some people are a big fan of Urshifu VMAX still, so if you're a big fan of Rapid Strike and you still want to make it work in Standard, then this would be a good place to start for you. Also playing stuff like Rapid Strike and Polion just to turn off any abilities like Comfy and stuff, although I do think the upcoming Klefki is probably better value. We also see Zeraora V, which is really cool with the Crossfist attack. 1 Luminion V again, and then 1 Drapion. I do think Drapion's definitely worth it post-rotation because of how much Mew will be kicking around, so I do think Drapion's probably should be a card basically that's in all the Lugia decks, but you know, we'll see how it goes moving forward. This list also, unlike the previous ones, is playing a heavier count of Pokemon Search, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Aromatic Incense, and then 4 Nest Ball, because you're playing a ton of more basics, so you kind of want to be playing the 4 Nest Ball, but you also need to find, you know, Lugia Vstar, as well as Archeops, as well as Rapid Strike Urshifu, which is why we're also playing Aromatic Incense. It's also playing 3 Serena, which I approve of, for Research, which is great. You know, we even got a Cheryl in here, which is kind of spicy, because Rapid Strike Urshifu can only use like 1 energy for its first attack and then 3 energy for its second attack, and then you have to discard them all. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this list. I think it's really cool. And one thing I will say is I don't know why Zenith's Resolve is in any of these decks. I really don't like it as a card. Yeah, you get to discard Archeops from your hand potentially, but it doesn't draw you that many cards. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. But other than that, I would definitely say this list is looking pretty solid. So this next one is going to be a single strike Umbreon build featuring Tyranitar and Stonejourner again. Umbreon, of course, is going to be a dark type, hitting weakness on stuff like Gardevoir, so that's a big bonus right off the bat. 160 damage for 1 dark and 2 colors does mean you'll get the 320 KO. Also worth noting that even though double turbo energy does bring your damage down by 20, so you theoretically shouldn't be doing 280. I know, only doing 280 against something like a Mew. Because you have single strike energy attached as well, it'll allow you to do an extra 20, and that of course will get you into the 1-hit KO territory again. So that's just something worth bearing in mind. This deck also only plays 1 Boss's Orders and no Serena, because you technically don't need to if you're playing Umbreon VMAX, which is cool, so that's like another pretty neat aspect about this deck. One thing I will say, and probably should have brought this up in the last list as well, is that because you're playing VMAX Pokemon, you're obviously in 3 prize territory. Now, we will have to see how EX Pokemon end up performing, but basically giving up 3 prizes in the new format is going to be pretty dicey when we have stuff like Magenzone EX running around, so we'll have to be sure that Umbreon can compete, but it is pretty cool to see, and Umbreon, of course, being one of my favorite Pokemon, I do think this is a pretty cool list, and definitely got some interesting stuff going on. Also, one of the only Lugia lists that I've seen that actually plays Roxanne post-rotation. I don't know why more people don't play Roxanne. You know, we've got 2 Zinnias Resolve in here, but, you know, no Serena or anything. So, yeah, pretty interesting deck, but yeah, I'll have to see how this one does. So this next one, probably my favorite on the list, to be honest, and that's going to be another single strike build. This time focusing on Gengar and single strike Urshifu. It's clear to me this person couldn't really make up their mind if they preferred Urshifu and Gengar, so decided to go one or the other. First thing I would say, just always lean into one over the other. Like, I don't think there's a reason to play both, but I guess you could hit different weaknesses. But honestly, I don't think you need Urshifu VMAX to take care of Miraidon. I think you can just use Stonejourners and be okay, but, you know, that's my 2 cents. I guess this person thought it was worth it. So Gengar, of course, allowing you to hit weakness on Gardevoir and Mew, which is pretty big. And then, of course, you know, the Fear and Panic attack, doing 60 damage for each Pokemon V your opponent has in play. Obviously really good against, like, Miraidon, Regieleki, and stuff like that. So definitely worth considering post-rotation. And of course, single strike Urshifu with a massive one blow attack, allowing you to potentially want to kill anything in the format. So pretty big attackers. One thing I will say is I do think Gengar is a really solid pick post-rotation. Not too sure about single strike Urshifu VMAX. I don't think you need the VMAX really, but yeah, I'll have to see how this one performs post-rotation. Once again, playing heavy counts of everything, 4 Urn, 4 Unwitting Incense, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Nest Ball, so just going like max consistency in those departments. 3 Research, 2 Judge I do approve of, 1 Serena, 1 Burnett, 2 Boss. Seems pretty solid. 2 Stadiums just to use them if you really need to. And overall the Special Energy looks pretty solid. So yeah, big fan of his list. Not sure I'm a fan of like how the Pokemon split off, but yeah, should be pretty good either way. Also worth noting that you don't have a single prize attacker, which feels a little jarring, but I guess you could use archeops in a pinch. So this next one is going to be a Lugia Deoxys deck. So focusing exclusively on the Deoxys, single prize attacker that did 80 and then 80 more if you have a Fusion Strike energy attached to it. Really solid, because it does mean, of course, we can use that Dragon Scroll tool card to do 300 damage potentially and want to kill something in the game, but we will be discarding special energy in order to do that. So we don't want to use the scroll all the time, but we do play 3 copies, so it is kind of an important piece of this deck. It's also really cool to see in this deck that there's so many single strike options that you can discard them all with single strike tower as well, so there's bonus consistency in that department. But yeah, it's a pretty cool list. I kind of like it. The supporters are kind of light, we're only playing 7 draw supporters and no, Boss, Cheryl, Serena, none of that. Well, we are playing Serena, but we're not playing Judge or anything. We're not playing like Brunette or anything like that. So it's a pretty interesting list to see. Not sure I'm a big fan of Deoxys though. I don't think you're doing enough damage-ish as a single prize attacker. I know that sounds so weird, but yeah, not hitting any relevant weakness with being a psychic type is also a little jarring, but we'll see how this does post-rotation. So this last one is going to be a Lugia Mousehole build. I know people are probably expecting this one to be featured earlier on because it was one of the translations. But yeah, we're playing the 4/4 Mousehold line to allow you to potentially hit 280. Also got stuff like Choice Belt in here, so we can theoretically get to 310 if we really want to, but yeah, I'm not so sure about this build. There's also some like questionable decisions, like 1 Arusa and then 2 Shauna and stuff like that. So yeah, some interesting stuff going on here. I guess if you want to play Mousehold, this is probably like the best deck and the best way to play it. But yeah, definitely an interesting list. But yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about Lugia Vstar post rotation. Do you think it's going to be viable? And yeah, hope you see you next time. Thank you for watching.